Good morning, everybody. My name is Janine Gartner, and I'm one of your trainers here at Realcomp. I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's map search webinar for the new RCO 3 system. Please keep in mind, after today's webinar, if you'd like to join us for a class, we'd love to have you for the RCO 3 transitional training course. If you've already taken that course, your next step would be to take the additional search options class, which of course includes the map search that we're going to cover today, along with every other search in the system. So we'd love to see you for that class. Please call customer care to sign up and register for that class. That definitely is the next step in your transitioning from Realcomp Online to RCO 3 or WECO 3 as we call it in the office, so that you're ready for November's cutoff of the old system. We're into Realcomp Online number 3. I will answer all questions at the end of the webinar today, so please jot those down, and after we're done going through today's webinar, please go ahead and ask your questions and I'll be glad to answer those for you. We are going to record the session today, flaws and all, so this will be available for you on Realcomp's corporate website later on this week sometime, so that you're able to go back and watch it, and hopefully it will help you, again, with your transition into the new Realcomp Online 3 system. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to focus strictly on the map search, and I'm going to show you several different ways that this can be useful for you. We're going to talk about doing a map search for a buyer. We're going to talk about doing a map search for a seller. We're going to talk about doing a map search when you just want to zero in on an area, maybe if you want to save it as a hot sheet or save it for yourself or just to look around and see what's been going on in a certain area. So we're going to do several different types of searches with the map search. I am going to show you the speed bar again and how helpful that can be, not just for your map search but for all searches. We also are going to talk about, again, filling in criteria for a prospect or a seller. We're going to talk about hopefully finding a buyer for you in certain different areas and things of that sort. So this is pretty exciting. I tend to really like the map portion of our system as it gets me right where I need to be in a short amount of time. So first step is to log into Realcomp Online 3. And once I log into Realcomp Online 3, now my home page probably looks a lot different than yours, because through the couple of months that we've had this, I've been going around and shuffling things. Some of you may even have to close one of the announcements that we've just added in. So if your screen opens up and you have an announcement, all you have to do is scroll down to the bottom of that announcement and either click I have read this, or I'll read it later, or in my case I'm simply going to click close so that your home page shows. So for the first example, let's say that you have a customer, and let's say it's me. Perhaps I'd like to, with gas prices and the like, I'd like to live, a couple of miles from where I work. Well, anytime you're using the map search, you need to have an exact address. So you can't just type in the name of the street. That would be an address search. But for a map search, it needs a street number and a street name. You do not have to put the entire address, meaning after you put the street number and the street name, you don't need to put the city and the state and then the zip code. You can use either or. You can use the city or the zip code if you prefer. So I'm your customer, and I'd like to live a couple of miles from where I work. You find out my work address, and I'm looking for a residential property. So you'll hover over search, choose residential, and in this case, I'm going to click on the quick search. And when I click on the quick search, I can see on my screen, right in the middle, map search. Now, this is where I'm going to enter in my exact address. So I'm going to click in the box there and type in my work address, 28555 space Orchard, Lake, road. This is, well, if I spell it right, road. This is the only search that you can enter in: north, south, east, and west, road, drive, lane, courtway, because you're actually searching a map. We know we don't do that for the address search or in public records. So once I've typed in the address, I'm going to put a space, and then I could either type in the city that I'm looking for, or I can type in the zip code. In this particular case, I'm going to choose the zip code, which is 48334. Now, remember, with all search criteria pages, once you start typing in your criteria, it's important to keep your eye at the bottom left-hand corner, because it will tell you as you start filling in the rest of the criteria on this page how many matches you have. And then once you're satisfied with those matches, you can either click on the map or you can go directly to the results, and then you can toggle between the two. Well, I'm going to pick 2 miles around this address. So I'll click that down arrow and choose 2. And you can see it start to refresh. Once it has my area selected, I'm then going to fill in the rest of the criteria I like in that 2 miles of this particular address. So I'm going to move over to the left-hand column at the top. Since I'm a buyer, I'm going to choose the active. And remember, active is always everything that is currently on the market. Once I choose active, again, if we take a peek down at the bottom left, we'll see that I have already 108 matches, 2 miles around this particular subject property. So I'll finish filling in the rest of my criteria. I'm looking for residential. Remember, under search and residential, condos and residentials are a pair. So you want to pick between the two. So I'm going to choose residential, and now I'm down to 83 matches. I don't have to fill in any other area criteria. Perhaps if I were looking for a particular school district in Farmington Hills, I would choose that, but I don't need, in this case, to put in any other area criteria because I've locked it in within the 2 miles of my subject property. But I am going to scroll over to the third column. I'm looking for homes between 180 to 220,000. The system assumes thousands by the check in the box here for thousands. So I'm going to put in 180-220 for my range of 180,000 to 220. And you'll notice that I quickly got down to 15 matches. I can finish typing in the rest of the criteria I'm looking for. If I scroll down just a bit, I'm interested in at least 3 or more bedrooms. So in bedrooms, I can put in 3 plus. And that is still, I have 15 matches. Then I have bath.labs. I'm looking for at least 2.5. So that would be entered 2.1 plus for 2 full baths, at least 1 lav, or of course more. And now I'm down to 13 matches. If I scroll down just a bit more, I'm looking for a certain square footage. I need at least 1,800 square feet above grade. So I'm going to type in finished above grade, 1,800 plus. When my results come back, now I'm down to 12. And I'd like a garage, so I'll simply say yes for garage. And sure, I'd like a basement. And I'll say yes for basement as well. Putting in the basement, as you see, dropped me down to 9 matches. Well, that's good enough, for soon enough I won't have any properties to look at. So using the subject property and a radius within that subject property will narrow down your results pretty soon. All you need is one subject property. It could be a commercial property such as this as your landmark. It could be a school. Perhaps the children would like to go to Cranbrook Schools and you have Cranbrook Schools address and you'd like to search around it. Again, it could be a person's home and that you have to do a comp on, and you'd use their address as the subject property. As long as you have a full address, again meaning street number and street name, you'll be able to do the map search. And then you add in either the city or the zip code. and then that will lock in your area, and you pick the radius around it and fill in the rest of your criteria. Let's go ahead and look at the rest of the matches here. So I'm going to scroll down and I see I have my 9 matches. I could click on the map right away, or I can click on the results and look at the different reports I need. I'm going to click on the map. When I choose the map and my screen refreshes, I see my radius, and of course the red dot is my subject property. So I'll see my 9 homes here. Now I can definitely change the way that I'm looking at my results on the map. If I look in my upper left-hand corner and I see it says road, I could actually scroll in with my mouse or use the plus sign here on my map to scroll in and see the actual streets here. Get in a little closer if I'd like to within my radius. So controlling your mouse and the roller or the plus sign is key when you're inside of the map. If your results ever get away from you, and they will, you can always, underneath the criteria button, you'll notice you have a couple of shapes here. You can always click on the bullseye, and the bullseye will recenter you. I use that more than I like to because I'm very picky when I go through my map. So I generally end up clicking on the recenter button just to get back home. But again, I don't have to look at the results in just the road format. If I go in my upper left-hand corner and click underneath road, I see that I have 2 other options to view the map in. I can click on the automatic, and once I click on the automatic, I'll center myself and I'll scroll in. The more I scroll in, eventually it will change over so that I can pan through the neighborhoods and kind of see the layout of the neighborhoods. Again, the green pins are my properties that I've selected in my search here. So I can actually scroll in kind of close and actually see exactly where these properties are located. This might come in handy for you. Perhaps you have a customer that's quite picky about where they would like their property located. Perhaps they don't want to be on a corner lot. Perhaps they don't want to be across from a school. You know, maybe perhaps they need the home facing a certain angle. You can definitely get your results. Choose road or automatic, and then actually view those by scrolling in and seeing exactly where the home is situated. Well, besides the automatic, if you go back up to the upper left-hand corner, you have the bird's eye. And when you click on the bird's eye, it pretty much does the same thing. I have found that the bird's eye gives me a little bit more control with my mouse, so I'm able to pan over. And again, I can scroll in, I can scroll out, and stay within that exact area that I'm looking for to view where the homes that I'm looking at are located. And you can scroll in pretty close. You just have to wait for the resolution of your properties to pull up from the map. So have some fun with this. I'm going to go ahead and click back to the road and recenter myself. Now, once you've looked at the map and you see where all the homes are located, you'll see these little pins here, of course, which represent your results. You may at any time click on the pin and actually view the home. If you'd like a summary, you'd click on the MLS number, and that will pull you to the listing. You may also select homes by clicking on the little pins and checking the boxes in front of them. And sometimes you have to scroll up your page here, depending on where you are, and selecting those particular properties. So I have 2 checked so far. You may also select them again and deselect if you wish as well. So perhaps you'd like to look at all of your results viewing the map. So that's just one way to work the map. You can also go back to the results when you're done and see those 9 particular properties and then choose a different report if you wish to. Perhaps let's just say the full large with map and rollouts so that you see again the picture, you see the map, of course, where it's located, all the details of the property, and then from the full map with rollouts, you can then view the history, look at all the additional photos, and public records for that property. I'm going to go ahead and click back on Home. Now, what if you need to do a map search and perhaps you're looking for a seller? You can actually use their address as well as your subject property when doing the map search. So, once again, I'm going to hover over Search, choose Residential. In this case, I'm going to choose the Quick Search. The screen's going to refresh, and once again, I'm going to go right into the center where it says Map Search. I'm going to type in the particular address I'm looking for, which happens to be in Livonia. Again, this is a seller and they'd like to sell their property. So I'm going to type in their address. And this time I can either type in, and it happens to be in Livonia, I could type in the city, or again, I can use the zip code. And I'd like to search about a mile around this particular property. When I type in the address and again, how many miles around it, now I can fill in the rest of my criteria. I'm going to check off sold this time. When I check off sold, a status date, or what we call in the new system, last change timestamp, appears for me, and it always defaults to 365 days from the current day that you're searching. By no means do you have to leave it at 365 days. You may change this to any time that you like. So perhaps I'd like to go back maybe 180 days. When I check off sold, 0-180, if we look down at the bottom, always looking at our results, I have 105 matches already 1 mile of this particular address. So I'll continue to finish the rest of my criteria. Again, I'm looking for residential. When I click on residential, now I'm down to 97 matches. I can again add in any additional location if need be, but I'm going to move over to the price. In this case, since I'm looking for sold, if I knew the price range I was looking for, I could type it in. But in this case, I'm looking for comps that fits my criteria in a certain price range. So I'm not going to fill in a price in this particular case. What I will do, though, is decipher between sales, and leases. I don't want any leases in this particular search because I am looking for an actual sale of a property. So I'll click on sale. And that will give me lowest dollar amount to highest dollar amount with the criteria that I'm looking for, 1 mile of this particular home. And you'll notice I'm down to 74 matches. Now I can fill in the criteria that I like. So this particular subject property happens to have 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. So I can fill in 3 plus for 3 or more bedrooms, or if I'd like to do a range, I could do a range. And for bath and lavs, they have at least 2. So I'm going to put 2 plus. And I'm down to 25 matches. As I continue to scroll down, the square footage for this particular home was anywhere between 1275. So I think what I'll do is I'll take my square footage and I'm going to use total square footage for my comp. I think I'm going to take it down to 1100. And I think I will take it up to as far as 1600 and see how many matches we have. So between 1100 and 1600 square feet, I have 11 matches. Again, 1 mile around my subject property. The subject property happens to have a garage and happens to have a basement. So I'm going to enter those. So yes for garage and yes for basement. Now I'm down to 4 matches. So I have a couple of choices. If 4 is enough, that's fine, but if I think that I should have a few more results, I can adjust my criteria. I'm not going to adjust the actual criteria that the home has. I'm going to work with what I have control over, which happens to be the status date, or again, in the new system, we call it last change timestamp. So perhaps I'm going to space out 180 and I'll go back to my 365. You will learn how to adjust your matches and adjust your search that you're comfortable with. So now I have 10 matches in the last year. Let's look at those and see what happens. When I scroll down, again, I'm going to click on the map because I'd like to view where they are. Once I click on the map, it shows me where my particular properties are. Now you'll notice very closely that one of the matches says 2. That means the homes are so close to each other on the map it could not decipher. So I have 2 choices. I could either go in the center as close as possible and scroll in and then pan over to see that particular property, those properties. And then I can click on the 2 and I will see how closely related. Sometimes again I have to drag my mouse around here. Click on the 2 so that I can see them and see that they're pretty much the same property. So one sold for, in the same time frame, one property sold for $59,000. And as I scroll down, I can see that it was listed again, the same address, and I can see that it was then sold again for $155,000. Okay, so same property within that same year time span. We'll talk about how to dig a little deeper to look at the differences as well. And then you can scroll back out if you prefer, or use the minus button to navigate through your results here. And again, notice that when the properties were on the market, they were green. Well, we're looking at sold properties, so they turn blue for us. And when we click on that, again, we get to see a summary for each of those properties. Again, if I'd like to select a couple, I do have my checkbox above to go ahead and click and select the property that I'm interested in. Or I can deselect them after second thought if I wish. Now, don't forget, you don't have just this view to look at. If you'd like to look at your results in another format, again, in the upper right left-hand corner, you can hover over Road, choose Automatic, and then simply scroll in and view your results this way as well. Or you can choose the bird's eye view. And scroll in, and you just have to wait for the resolution on the map to come through to see where the homes are actually located so that you can pick the proper homes for your customer or for your comp, if you will. And again, to recenter, because it's very easy to get lost around the map, you want to click on the bullseye to recenter you if needed. Now, let's talk about a little more fun that we can have. If you notice, underneath the criteria button, there's several different shapes going on here. Next to the bullseye, which will recenter you, you have your maps so that you can layer your flood zones and different things like that on your map. You have, if you ever have criteria that you selected and you'd like to deselect that, you can use the broom to get rid of the old and put back everything. And you have 3 shapes. Well, one we're used to, which is the radius that you're looking at here. Your radius when you use the map search from the criteria button will always appear. You have a rectangle, and you have your polygon that we are used to as well. So let's demonstrate how we can utilize those. I'm going to go ahead and click back on Home. And in this particular search, I'm going to use the speed bar. So I have a particular address that I'd like to use to start with, and perhaps around that address I know there's some homes I'm looking for, some I probably won't be interested in, and I'd like to use the map as a drawing tool to get the area that I'm specifically searching for. So a couple different ways that I can do it. Number one, I'm going to start in the speed bar with some basic criteria. So I'm simply going to look for active listings that happen to be in Brighton Township, which I could type in Brighton Township, or I could use the 5-digit area number to lock in that area, which happens to be 01122. And that's actually right now all the criteria I need. I can get more specific, and I will a little later. So I just want everything that's active in this particular area. And I'll click on the magnifying glass. Once I do that, it takes me to my criteria screen with my results. And again, I can look at my results in any format that I wish. But I'm going to go straight to the map because I'd like to see where these homes are located. So in my upper right-hand corner, I'm going to choose the map. And notice when I click on the map, it recognizes that I'm looking at all the actives in this particular area, which happens to be Brighton Township. Again, I do have my choice to change it to whatever view works best for me. I'm looking at the road now. I can change it to the automatic and, of course, the bird's eye. So here I am looking at my results, and I see that Highway 23 has kind of split my criteria in two. Perhaps your customer is looking in this particular area over by Kensington Road here, and that's pretty much where they like their property, they like to search. So I can add a couple things to this. Notice that I didn't put in, do I want residentials or condos or vacant land or commercial properties. So now that I see it on the map, if I wish to, I can add that by putting a space back in the speed bar and entering in the code that I like for the property type I'm interested in, and clicking again the magnifying glass. And that changes my results to 101. Okay, so now I'm pretty sure I only have residential properties in this area instead of all actives for all property types. And again, I'd like to be just around Kensington Road here. So I now can go up to the top and use one of these 3 different shapes. I'm going to use the rectangle in this one. So I click on the rectangle, and it must turn yellow so that it's highlighted. Then I'll come down and I'll find a starting point here. So I'll click on the map to host my red dot, and I'll simply draw around the area that I'm looking for. And I've learned to click at each stop, and I'll see that I have my red dot once again. When I hover over the red dot, I have a couple different choices. I could either delete this shape if I didn't mean to choose that one. It does give me an option to fix that. Or, as it states, I can include only the listings within the shape that I've drawn, or I may exclude all the listings in this particular shape that I've drawn. I'm going to include this shape only. So when I click include and click off, it is now set. It's important that you know whatever choice you make, you click, and then somewhere in the open space of the map you click off of it so it recognizes that that is the choice that you've made. So now I went from 101 matches down to 11. And if I'd like to, I can scroll in, get a little closer, so that I can see the properties. And then again, if I choose to, I can look at the automatic, or the bird's eye to see exactly where these properties are showing on the map. So that's just one neat way that you can actually go in and lock in your area. Well, let's talk about looking at an area doing the same thing, but this time with a particular address. Kind of interesting. Once you get into your certain area, what if you do have a particular subject property that you'd like to focus around? I'm going to use the same criteria in this particular search. We're in Brighton Township, and I've seen the properties that I'm looking for near Kensington Road, but I do have a subject property that I'd like to search around. So what I could do, since I search all of the active listings, residential listings in Brighton Township, I could directly from the map is go back up to the broom to give me all those 101 results back again, and then still use subject properties to poke around the area that I'm looking for. So I'm going to simply click right on the broom that clears all the shapes. Not only does it clear all the shapes, I get all of my results back as well. Now, I have all 101 results back, and again, I'm only searching all actives that happen to be residential in Brighton Township, but now I have a subject property that I'd like to look around. So, in the upper right-hand corner, again, underneath the criteria, the map, and the results, as you'll be using these to toggle through once you get any results, notice it's kind of grayed out, but it says jump to address. This is where I'll type in my subject property. So I'll click in that box, and I'm going to search properties around the subject property on Jacoby Street. And the address is 12251. I'll put my space, and I'll spell out my street. I'll then hit enter. When I hit enter, if you notice, up comes the subject property for me. And when I click on that, it tells me exactly which address that is. And I can close that out. And I will see, again, that I have not lost my criteria, so I still have my 101 matches. But now I have my subject property around it. So if I'd like to dig a little deeper, perhaps again, use my shapes, I can. Perhaps I'm looking for homes around the subject property, and I'm looking now for 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms or more. Again, I can go back up to the speed bar, put a space, and again, to enter in 3 or more bedrooms, it would be 3 plus. To enter in 2 or more bathrooms would be a space and put in 2 plus. And again, I'll click the magnifying glass, and that renders my results back to me. Now I'm down to 93 around this particular subject property. So it just lets me focus that way if you'd like to. And again, I can use my shapes, again, just by focusing in and drawing the area you wish. And again, just including this shape or excluding it. And now I'm back down to 10 results. So even if you used broad information initially, perhaps with your search or through the speed bar search, please don't forget you have your jump to address that you can put in a subject property, and the map will center you right there, and you can still do your searches around there and get the results that you need for a customer. Let's take this a little bit again. I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to use the speed bar again with this particular search. And I'm going to search for solds. And I'm going to search in Rochester and Rochester Hills. So when I click in the speed bar, and I'm still going to get back to the map, I'll type in sold, and I want solds going back 180 days. So I'll put in sold space SD for sold date, 0-180, because I want to go back 6 months from the current date that I'm searching, a space, and I'm going to put in the areas that I'm looking for. Let's just see what's sold in Rochester and Rochester Hills in the last 180 days. So I'm going to put in the codes that I have here for the area numbers. And I'll click the plus, the magnifying glass again to get my results. They've been a little busy, 118. Now, notice I didn't put in any price range. I could if I'd like to, and I think I am, just to narrow it up a little bit. I believe that I'm going to actually search, let's say, between $300,000 and $500,000 properties. So I'll put a space and put a $ and put 300 hyphen 500 to represent 300,000 to 500,000. And I'll click my magnifying glass again. And that takes me down to 196. Well, let's just see where those homes that have sold in the last 6 months in Rochester and Rochester Hills within this price range are located by clicking on the map. And once I click on the map, again, I'm looking for sold, so it changes the color from green to blue to represent the solds. Again, I can use my mouse to kind of zero in the center and spread my results out here. Now once again, notice that in the speed bar for my criteria, I did not specify what property types I'm looking for. Now I can. I can go back up to the speed bar, put a space, and I'm going to choose residential properties. Click my magnifying glass again, and now I'm down to 189. Once again, I can click on any of the pins that I'd like and view the property. And if I'd like to use that as my subject property, don't forget I can type in the address here under Jump to Address, which I'll do. Hit Enter, and once again, it brings me back center. And I still have all the properties surrounding it. So if I wanted to actually shape out and get just a certain area, don't forget I have my radius, I have my rectangle, and I have my polygon to draw the area that I wish. In this particular case, I'm going to scroll out just a little more, and I'm going to click on the polygon. Now, I liken this to an Etch-a-Sketch because you have to kind of play with it a couple times just to get it just so. So I'm going to, of course, choose my first spot. And as you see, as I start moving my mouse, I'm drawing the area that I wish. I have learned to actually click on each spot that I like before I move forward. And as you can see, I'm dragging, not only when I drag my mouse, I'm also dragging the map with me as well. And I click on my spot, and then I make my way back up. And I'll find my red dot again, which is key to lock it in. And once I click on that shape, again, it's asking me, are you sure you want to keep this shape? Because we can delete it now and start over. Or do you only want listings that are within the shape that you've drawn? Or would you like to exclude the listings that are within the shape that you've drawn? I'm going to go ahead and click exclude this time. And when I click exclude, it turns red for me. And as I scroll out, although this is my subject property area, I now can see the other properties that are surrounding it. Now, just to reiterate that you're not locked into anything, even if you're drawing a shape, you can come back to the top where all your shapes are, and remember the broom allows you to clear all the shapes out and it dumps back all of your criteria. So then if you'd like to, you can draw again if you wish to. And perhaps I'm looking for properties in this area of Rochester Hills. So I'll click and draw my radius out. And I'll click back into the center again for my red dot for my radius. And when I click on it, it asks again, would you like to only include listings within the shape, or would you like to exclude listings within the shape? I'll simply click on include. Again, I'll click off just to make sure I lock that in. And notice I have 38 properties here. And if I click on the recenter, now I'm focused on that particular shape that I've drawn. And again, I can scroll in and see the different streets. I can change from the road to the automatic and then scroll in. I can also hover over automatic again and this time change it to the bird's eye view. So you will find which view works best for you, the road, the automatic, the bird's eye. I tend to toggle between the three just depending on what I'm looking at and what I need for my customer. Here's one more example. I'm going to go ahead and click back on the home page once again. And again, with very little basic criteria, I'm going to lock in on a certain area utilizing the map. Now, once again, I could go to search, pick my search, and then type in a subject property if I have one, but maybe I don't. Perhaps I just have an area that I'm focusing in on. So again, that's where the speed bar will come in handy. So I can click on the speed bar, and this time I'd like to look around downtown Detroit area. So I'm going to look for condos. So I'm going to put in active space 05043. And I'll click on the magnifying glass. And right away I notice that I have 148 results. Well, let's see where those are located, and then let's see how I can pare it down by using the speed bar on the map search to do so. So I'll click on my map, and I can change my results in the way that I'm looking at the map in my upper left-hand corner, and I'll get the road view. So I know I'm pretty much in downtown Detroit here. Perhaps you have a customer that would probably like to live in Midtown, so you can again scroll in close enough so that you can see exactly where you're located. Perhaps they just want to be in downtown Detroit, perhaps in a new condo. So once you get all of your results, I can go back up to the speed bar and put in what I'm looking for, which happens to be CO for condo, and I'll click my magnifying glass. Okay. And it's asking me would I like the street number or the street name. In this particular case, I'm going to search for that area. And you'll see that your results come back. And if I scroll in just a bit, you'll see instead of homes, the icon now looks like a little towered building, like a condo. So that will represent your condos for you. Again, when you see 2 or 3 pens, when you click on that, that should be a clue for you that the property has been listed more than once with different, let me pull this down a little bit, with different price ranges. So this particular property was listed at $99,999 and once again at $139,999. If I wanted to add in a price range, I could on the map search and the speed bar search by putting in a dollar amount. And let's say I'd like to search anywhere between 125 to 250. When I click on the magnifying glass, it pulls me right where I'd like to be. So again, if there's a certain amount of area that you like, you definitely can draw a shape around it and focus in on that. Or if there was a subject property that you'd like to focus in on, you could put in basic criteria, such as I have done here: active, the area number, the property type, the dollar amount if you wish, and then if you'd like to put in a certain subject property, you have jump to focus in on that to make sure you're getting exactly what you'd like. So that will conclude today's different ways of searching with the map. If you have questions for me, please go ahead and send those to me now and I will answer them for you. Okay, so the first question that I have is, well, thank you, John. This was fun. So the first question I have is, can we do a map search by the PRD? Yes, you can. You'll have to go into public record data, type in your subject property, and then you'll have your public records here. And I'll show you that in just a second. I have another question by Shanice. What is the number 2? Anytime you see a number 2 or 3 on a map, that's letting you know that there are 2 or more listings in that same time frame for that particular address. So, or different listings. So for one of the examples we had, we saw that the property had been listed twice. One was a lease and one was a sale, but of course it was the same property. So when you click on the numbers, be prepared to scroll up or down your screen because it's going to show you all of those listings stacked on top of each other so that you can look at the summary for each of those. I have another question by Colleen. Can we tell it to only pull 100 addresses around the subject property in PRD? You could, no, but you can sort by that. So you can set your sort screen, and let me see if I can kind of get in there and do that here. I'll use one of my old searches. So when I click on my map and I go to the results here, you can change underneath the map here where you have your display, you can change how many results you have there. And then what you'll do is you'll select those particular properties that you're looking for. Okay, I have a question by Steve. Can you do the speed bar search by the school system? Not yet, Steve. What you can do is zip code. You can do the area number. Let me show you where you'll be able to find the codes that you need to use for the speed bar. You'll find them under the Help button. And once you click on Help, if you look in the left margin, you click that down arrow for speed bar, and I click on speed bar Help. There's a speed bar documentation screen here, and you'll see 4 or 5 different pages of all the codes that you can utilize when using the speed bar. Also, when you attend class, in every manual that we give you, we actually add this to your manual as well so that you can start utilizing the speed bar with many of your searches. As you can see, you put in just a little, it gives you quite a bit, a lot. So speed bar is very helpful for doing any search that you use in the Realcomp system. The next question I have is by Margaret. Can we take a picture when the map is showing in the aerial bird's eye view? No, ma'am, you sure can't. That comes from Bing Maps, so they've already taken those pictures for you. So I scroll down a little lower. I see that I've got a question from Roger. Floodplains near rivers demo. I guess I'm not quite sure. So I'll try to answer this the best that I can. So I'll run a search. I'll go back to Brighton here. And if you're looking for floodplains, remember your shape. So I'm near somewhat of rivers here or lakes here. So I'll use, when I get my results, underneath the criteria I have a couple different shapes. Again, I have my recenter, and here you'll find your map layers. When you click on that, here's your flood zones. And when you click on your flood zones, and again, you can layer these, click on your flood zones, it tells you what each of the different colors stand for. So in this case, everything is turned orange for me. It says out of special flood hazard. So depending on when you use your map, definitely use your flood zones and see what it has to offer. And again, if you scroll out, you'll see that it'll layer and different things will change for you for your flood zones. So in this particular case, I've zoned in and zoned out. It's still out of special flood hazard area. So definitely choose your layers when you get your results on the map to help you. So the next question I have is from Martin. From the full residential ticket, I'm assuming that's what it says, how do I get back to the map? Very easy. All of your results, let's move this here. You're either looking at the map or looking at the results. So if I'm looking at an actual listing, and this is the full listing, and I'd like to look at the map, there's two ways to do it. Number one, underneath the picture, I have a couple of icons, and I can simply click on the map there, and it opens up in a separate window for me. So I'll have to actually, to come out of it, click on that window. Or again, I can click on the map, and then if I'm looking at a full report by clicking on one of the properties here, I'm going to come out of my flood zones here. When I click on that and click the MLS number, I can easily click on the back button and it'll take me back to my results. And once I'm here, I can click back on the map if I wish to, go back to results, or again, underneath the criteria button, here's your display mode. You can click that down arrow and choose any of the different reports that you wish to view. So Victor says, great topic. What is a good way to memorize the area numbers, or you can explain how these were generated? Well, Victor, to be honest with you, there's so many different area numbers. I don't think you'll be memorizing them except for the ones that you use all the time for your areas. So you'll be able to find them here under the search button, and I generally go for the first search, but all of them will work. I go to search, residential quick search, and you will always find your area numbers under county. So let's say I'm looking for Oakland County. I can either type in Oakland in the box here, or I can click on Oakland, and here are all the 5 area digit numbers for Oakland County that I have here. So once you start searching in an area that you're familiar with all the time, these numbers will come to you, and you'll be able to enter those into the speed bar. Again, speaking of using the speed bar and the area numbers, if it's more than one city that you'd like to search at a time, you'll have to go and find your area numbers and simply type them in the speed bar, separating them with the space if it's more than one. Shelley would like to know how this works with an iPad. Well, to be honest with you, Shelley, I use my iPad quite a bit. When I'm in the map and I like to use a shape, what I've learned is to take my stylus pen or my finger sometimes, and I actually click on the shape that I want, and I click each particular spot, and I meet back up at my red dot. I will be the first to say it is challenging because the page constantly moves, but eventually you'll be able to select it. You'll get your groove of how to work that iPad and work that page. And when you get to back after drawing your shape and hit your red dot again, then you'll be able to choose if you like the shape, if you want to only include those particular homes in the shape that you've drawn, or if you'd like to exclude those. Kathy asks, is there a quick lookup for the codes within the system? Again, the quick way to look up the codes in the system is to, again, hover over your search, come down to your county, choose your county, and then once again, all the area numbers here are there. I have a question from Antonio. Once I have the homes I want selected on the map, how do I get just those homes in a visual format of all data about the houses selected? Very easy. I'm going to run a search for you once again. So let me scroll up to the top here. And notice that I continue to go back to recent searches, because once you do a search and you get results, you can always find it here under recent searches. So I'm going to go back to one of the searches I did on the map here. And I've got my results. So now I have them. And the question is, how do I get them back to look at the format that I want to utilize? Very easy. You've got two ways to do this. Number one, you can click on the little, I call these little Monopoly home pins. You can click on it and click the MLS number, and it opens up in the full listing for you. And again, you can toggle back by clicking the back button to meet back at the rest of your results. Or you can click on each one, click the box on the top of the summary, and I'll do about 2 or 3 here. And you'll see it's very faint, but you'll be able to see as I'm pointing out that the box is checked on those 3. Simply click back on your results. You'll see that those 3 are highlighted. And if you'd like to, you can click on each MLS number for them and view them this way. Notice that they turn blue because it recognized that you've highlighted them. And then from here, you may print, email those out if you wish to. The second question that I have from John is, can I search for bank-owned or non-bank-owned homes at the time? Yes, sir. You may do that. What I would do if you'd like to use the map search for that, again, you simply either will use the speed bar and put in your criteria, or I'd go to search. In this case, I'd probably go to search and quick search. Use the subject property, scroll down to ownership status, and then utilize my ownership status, my private owned, my short sale, my bank owned properties, so that you get the results that you need. Once you do, you'll click on the map and view those on the map. Martin has a question. We think we need to find a way to print out a list of codes. Is there one available? No, sir. Once again, you will always find the codes, and there's tons of them because it's all of Michigan. So that's why it's not advantageous to print those out. What you want to do is go to your search screen, pick residential, commercial, what have you, scroll down to your county, choose your county or counties if you wish to, more than one, and there you will find your 5-digit area numbers. The pages will be, because it's all of Michigan, so by the time you look up all those pages, it's an easier way just to click your county and choose your area. And I have a question from Fran. To locate an address, does the property have to be listed? No, not at all. Remember, one of the first searches that I did was off of a commercial property. It just has to be an actual address. So you can type the address in the speed bar and then get to the map, or you may type the address in under map search. So there could be a home that hasn't been listed in 40 years. No problem. As long as you have that address, you type it in the map search and you search all around it and then put in the criteria that you're looking for. Juanita has a question. What is the function of the selected check mark in the upper left hover view? Where are the printing options of any of the results? Once again, I go to my criteria. Once I have my criteria, if I'd like to print those, I definitely could. There's several different ways you can do it. I choose to do it in the easiest format by clicking on, even if I'm looking at the results and I have my area, I'll click on the results, check off the properties that I'm looking for, scroll to the bottom and click on print. Janice also has a question. When using the speed bar for beds or paths, if you put only one number, how does the system know that you're referring to bedrooms or baths? Well, great question. The way that the speed bar is formatted is if I just put in, and I'll go back home here and use another search. If I put in 3+, the system knows that's the code. So again, when you're using the speed bar, it's always important when you're using bedrooms and bathrooms is to always put the bedroom first and then the bathroom. If you choose not to put the bathroom, that's okay too, but the bedroom must go first. So that's how it will know that it's taking your 3 or more bedrooms, with or without bathrooms. Colleen has another question. When we are drawing out a radius on the map, it doesn't tell you the current results like it does with the normal search. That is correct. As you draw it out, it seems like you have to click on the results for it to give you the count. Yes and no. When I'm using my radius, there we go. Here's my results. Right now I have 818 records. When I click on my radius and I click an area and I draw it out, oops, I have to click on the radius and draw it out. And I click back in the center. Notice I went from 818 to 33 by utilizing my radius. So once you finish drawing with your tool, you have to look in the upper right hand corner and it will tell you that. Now you are correct also by saying if I draw it out, I click on the results and then I can see it there as well, but you can see it in the upper left hand corner of your map. Can you search, Shelley asked, can you search by MLS number if the house has never been listed before, if the house has been listed before? Yes, you can. You simply will go, and the easiest way to do it is to go into the speed bar and type in an MLS number. Let's see if I have one. I'll dig a little deeper here and find one for you. So I'll go into the speed bar, type in my MLS number, I'll click my magnifying glass and voila, it pulls up. Now if I'd like to see that on the map, of course, I can click on the map and it shows me my property here. And again, I can change my viewing of that if I choose to. Again, utilizing the speed bar helps you get into every search that you possibly could before. So I thank you for your questions. This will be recorded. This is being recorded now. I will have this uploaded to our corporate site probably by the end of the week. So I hope you enjoyed this session with the map search. I hope you find it useful and I hope that you do utilize it. If you'd like any additional help, please call customer care. They're able to help you with the map search. And if you'd like to attend class to learn more about the map search and go through all those different options that we did in full, please join us for the additional search options class, where we go through every single search in the system, public records, map search, quick search, every search again, and that will be able to push you along and help you forward with your transition. So I thank you for joining us this morning, and look for next week's webinar. Thanks and have a great day.